Hello again guys, and welcome to another video of Optics Trade Debates. My name is Tadej.
My name is Theodore. Hello.
And today we'll be discussing one of the most common questions we receive regarding mounts.
Yeah, it's a golden question.
Yes.
Always.
So we have here a Picatinny rail and Viva rail. Theodore, what is the most common difference? What is the most obvious difference between these two types of mounts?
Well, the obvious difference is that Picatinny has slots every 5 millimeters and in its entire length. While Viva has only a couple of slots depending on the manufacturer where they make them and where they are not making them. So when you look them closely, you immediately see which one is Picatinny and which one is Viva, which makes it so much stranger that this debate is always or I would say this question is always sent to our emails. What is the difference between Picatinny and Viva? Because when you look at two rails like this, you see the notice immediately. You notice the difference immediately.
Yes, of course.
What is true is that their profile from this side, the profile of both is completely the same. And the reason for that is that Viva existed far sooner than Picatinny and was used as a base to develop the Picatinny standard. So basically the only difference that they did with the Picatinny rail is to take the Viva profile and then put every 5 millimeters a 5 millimeter gap, a 5 millimeter slot across it. So this way they got more flexibility in mounting and where to put the mounts, the front or the rear. And well, they invented a standard which is now almost a golden standard in manufacturing, since I believe that Viva will disappear sooner or later because it's less versatile than Picatinny.
Yes, we can really see it's highly usable in every single slot of the rail.
You can put the mount on any distance, on any position on the rail, while with Viva you can only put on.
You're limited to those slots which are
on the rail. So in this regard, the Picatinny is much better, and this is also the reason why Picatinny is so much more popular, and why I think that Viva will slowly vanish. Even though, if you look at the search traffic and if you look at the keywords and how much search volume they get, people still search for Viva rail more often than Picatinny.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting but strange, and I think it will change in the future because. More and more producers are producing Picatinny rails only. They don't produce Viva rails.
Yes, I think that Picatinny is becoming really global term in terms of mounting. So in the comparison, these two mounts are basically the same, but for only those differences which you already explained to us.
Well, what is also not with rails but with mounts made for these rails, there is one huge difference, that all mounts can go on Picatinny. However, those mounts which are made for Picatinny will not fit Viva. And the reason for this is that Viva has these cross slots which are 3.8 millimeters wide, while Picatinny has 5.2 millimeter wide slots. And that means if you have let's say a Picatinny mount which has a recoil stopper which goes into this slot with a dimension of 5 millimeters, you're not able to put it on Viva rail because 3.8 millimeter slot on Viva rail cannot accommodate 5 millimeter recoil stop on the mount. So if we see this, like this, it just doesn't fit because this dimension is 3.8 millimeters while the recoil stopper is 5 millimeters, and it cannot work. And the other way around, when you have a Viva mount which has 3.8 millimeter slot and let's say 3.5 millimeter recoil stopper, it can go on any Viva rail like this. However, it also fits Picatinny. You just have to push it forward towards the target, because on the rear side it will be some space available because the slot is 5.2 and the recoil stopper is usually 3.5. So basically what that means is that Viva rings can go on any mount. Picatinny mounts or rings can go only on Picatinny rail. However, it's also true that most modern mounts, let's say like this, monoblock mounts, tactical mounts, they all have recoil stoppers with 5 mm dimension, so only Picatinny rail can accommodate them, and Weaver just can't because the slot is too small, so it will not work. And the same goes for tactical monoblock mounts, for let's say monoblock or single piece mounts made for hunting rifles for Picatinny. Or if we look at the mounts for red dot sights, like this aim point, this one also has a recoil stopper in this breech, which is 5 mm wide, and again it will not fit on Weaver rail, while it will fit without a problem on Picatinny. I see it like this. Yeah, it fits, so it's no problem. Yeah, like this. It fits, and basically more or less all modern mounting solutions are made for Picatinny.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, mounts for Weaver can only fit the Weaver rail mounts, but it can go vice versa for the Picatinny.
The other way around.
The other way around.
Yeah, the Weaver mounts can fit on everything.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
sorry.
While Picatinny mounts can fit only on
Yes,
Picatinny.
because of the notch.
The notch is just not wide enough.
Yes, of course. Okay, what about, I can see this is a one-piece rail. Are those Weaver rails and Picatinny rails available as two-piece mounts?
Bases like this one?
Yes.
Well, with Weaver, yes. Most of the two-piece bases are still Weaver. And again, you need to get Weaver mounts for them, because Picatinny mounts will not work. And some producers, but rarely, they produce also the small bases plates which have 5 mm slots, so Picatinny standard. But these are rare. In majority is like this one-piece rail, which have many advantages. One of them is that when you put two-piece mounts on them, they're always aligned in the same axis, and they are more reliable, more tough, well, better in all aspects. They are usually made with Picatinny standard. While two-piece bases, which have many disadvantages, the only real advantage is the price. They're usually made on Weaver standard, not Picatinny. But if it's possible, always go with a one-piece, full-length Picatinny rail. This is definitely the best solution to mount any of these mounts. Which are suitable.
You already mentioned price a bit. What about the price of Weaver and Picatinny rails for most of the premium manufacturers like MAK or Rehnagel or something like this?
Yeah, the German manufacturers, more or less, it doesn't really, it's no difference because they produce only Picatinny. Ernst Appel, so the EAW, they were producing, this is their rail, this is their Weaver rail. And even they almost completely abolished the production of Weaver rails. Now they are only producing the Picatinny rail. It is true that Picatinny rails are a little bit more expensive because there is more work associated with them, because you have to do much higher number of these slots than on Weaver. On Weaver, this one has only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots, while this one has slots on its entire length.
Okay, I can see that every Picatinny rail footprint is, of course, identical to one another.
Yeah.
What about with Weaver rails? Are those Weaver rails also identical, the footprints, or can they vary depending on the mount?
The profile is always the same. So the profile, if you look here at the profile, this one is always the same, no matter Weaver or Picatinny. But the cross slots on Weaver rail are completely, well, I would say, they can be done by the manufacturer as way the manufacturer wishes. There is no standard. And you can find such Weaver rails with only 2 slots, with 5 slots like this one, with 6 slots, with 3 slots. It really doesn't matter. Also, the position of the slots is completely depends only on the manufacturer and on manufacturer judgment, nothing else. With Picatinny, this is standard. You know that you have to have a slot every 5 mm and on the entire length. So it's much better in this regard. Okay,
I know that the answer is, as we can see, quite obvious, but nonetheless, which rail would we recommend the most?
Picatinny, always. I also think that the smartest would be that everybody would just stop producing Weaver. At least it would make life much more easier for us. But for the time being, when both of these two standards are still in production, I would say if you have the chance, go always with Picatinny standard, not with Weaver, because then you avoid all the problems with mounting, because all the mounts will fit.
Yeah, even if you have a Weaver ring, a bit older one, which can still fit Picatinny without a problem.
Yeah, while really modern new mounts will not fit the Weaver.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay, I think we covered most of the basic questions.
I hope I did. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
But however, if you still have any additional question, if you forgot to mention something and you would like to know something more specific about this topic, feel free to leave a comment below or subscribe to our channel. Take care.
Thank you.